Good Tuesday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world here on the I Love CVille Network. And today's show is red hot. Red hot. We're grateful for your viewership and for your listenership. If you can do us a favor and spread the gospel, let folks know about our content here on the I Love CVille Network, the I Love CVille Show, and a program we do Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1:30. Be straightforward. There is no network offering more live and local programming than what we're doing here on the I Love CVille Network as we position content about this community across all social media platforms known to mankind. Scott Aaronworth in Virginia Beach, welcome to the program. So one of the things that I very much enjoy doing is championing folks in the community that are doing big and positive and influential things. And we do a good job of that. I also very much like the entrepreneur lifestyle. I understand how difficult it is to be one. I'm very much a foodie, so is my wife. We love to eat out. We love to shop local. One of the things that we've become here at I Love CVille is an epicenter or a water cooler of content, local content. And one of the content verticals that has gained significant traction and momentum is us highlighting businesses in the community that are for sale, active listings, and I've noticed over time, and certainly over the last 6 months or so, that we're now getting entrepreneurs, business owners that are either looking to retire, in some financial hardship, looking to pivot with their professional career, do different things. They're now reaching out behind the scenes and saying, hey, our business is about to go on the market, or this business is now getting listed. Will you drive some attention, awareness for us, maybe help us find a buyer? And I love it. I love it. I love hearing their stories. I love getting a look at their financials, P&Ls, their balance sheets. I love talking to their team members, hearing their founder stories. Any comments or commentary that I relay here on this public forum, I always ask for approval first before airing it. I never talk out of turn, loose lips sink ships, and I always have the green light to talk about them. So today we will highlight another business in the city of Charlottesville that is for sale. That story is coming up in a matter of moments, and I'll give you a hint. It's in Barracks Road Shopping Center. Barracks Road undoubtedly is having some turnover, whether it's hotcakes, which we let you know about first, the business we're about to let you know that's for sale. The rents are high, and owners are realizing potentially that this is not the best path of pursuit for them. Yesterday we told you about Terra Thai, our friends at Terra Thai that are moving down Emmett Street to the old Arches frozen yogurt location and away from Barracks. Today's a new one. The owners of the business we're about to relay to you watch the show routinely and watch yesterday's show, and then reached out to us in DM fashion, direct message fashion, to highlight what they're asking for their business. So that story's coming up in a matter of moments on the program. I'm also on today's program going to highlight with Alex Urpí. The bulls are running wild right now. Markets are rebounding, and they're rebounding fast, and what has been a red and bleeding Wall Street for much of the first quarter, and by much of the first quarter, I mean pretty much all of it. Now over the last 2 weeks, 10 days, 8 days, the green and the bulls have pummeled the bears in the red. We'll talk about that with Alex, CEO of Emergent Financial Services, in about 10 minutes. And we will ask ourselves, why are markets making this comeback? Certainly positive discussions around the Ukrainian-Russian war are helping. A buying opportunity, as many think the markets have reached a bottom. Oil and gas are starting to fall from a pricing standpoint, which is going to certainly help from a disposable income standpoint with Americans. You look at some of the losses that have been established over Q1, and they're eroding. They're eroding. So that topic with Urpi, Alex, in about 12 minutes on today's show. We will also talk data released today from the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Index that said home prices year over year, January 2022 versus January 2021, home prices nationally rose 19.2%. I want you to think about that number. It's a 10-city composite annual increase. In the 10-city composite index, you're looking at a nearly 20%, 19.2% to be exact, increase in home prices year over year. That is substantial. Phoenix, Tampa, and Miami saw the biggest gains at 32.6%, 30.8%, and 28.1% respectively. I mean, here in this community, you're looking at 12, 20% gains year over year for homeowners. That is literally wealth, generational wealth that's been created in a calendar year. I mean, $400,000 house, you're talking $50,000 to $80,000 in a year. $1 million house, you're talking $200K. So that topic on today's program will highlight the success of Virginia basketball and the National Basketball Association. I found this stat fascinating. There are 10 Virginia basketball players that are active. 10 that have scored 10 points or more this season. Trey Murphy, Malcolm Brogdon, DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome, Joe Harris, Justin Anderson, Kyle Guy, Anthony Gill, Mamadi Diakite, and Sam Hauser. They have all scored 10 points or more, 10 different players in the NBA. So Tony Bennett's bunch really having success in the National Basketball Association. We'll highlight that today on the program. Guys, welcome to the show. We want to thank Skooma Boutique Dispensary for being a part of the program. Skooma Boutique Dispensary, the best dispensary in the city of Charlottesville, is Skooma Boutique Dispensary on the Charlottesville Downtown Mall. Skooma Boutique Dispensary, making big-time moves. Judah Wickhauer's our director. If you want to go to the two-shot and get a little J-Dubs in the mix, so folks can see that that handsome face of yours. And as someone just sent me on Twitter, Braxton Key had 9 points last night, Jerry. So he's knocking on that door of that list as well. Braxton Key with 9. I mean, that's potentially 11 players in the NBA from Tony Bennett's team with double digits or more. Now, the lead of the show, and give me the thumbs up when the, Johnny Ornalis, hello. Give me a thumbs up when that two-shot's ready to rock. And you're ready to get in there. Might as well set up the 3 once Alex Urpí gets here, J-Dubs as well. All right, let's get to the business that's for sale. Another one in Barracks Road Shopping Center. Potentially some more attrition in the highest rent district in the city of Charlottesville. And that business, boys and girls, is Oliva. Oliva is the, Oliva, is it Oliva? Oliva? Oliva?
Yes, it's Oliva.
I'm looking at the website, it's pronounced Oliva. Oliva. This business, and I'll read out the about page to them. Oliva opened in May of 2017. So this business is not 5 years old. They offer extra virgin olive oils and balsamics. The owner is Robert Bug Johnson, who was born and raised in Nelson County, received a degree in business administration from Radford U, began his career in financial services, received a master's degree with honors from Kennesaw State University. He's lived in 7 U.S. cities and the island of Bermuda twice. He opened Oliva in 2017, 5 years ago. Seems longer than that. The asking price for this locally owned business in the highest rent district in the city of Charlottesville is $295,000. $295,000. Gross revenues of $328,000, $20,000 worth of inventory. A very unique business. 1,400 square feet. I'm looking at the data points now. The reason for selling is to pursue a new opportunity in entrepreneurship. Transition is possible with the current owner willing to hang on and help make a transition. But J-Dubs, it's next door to Barnes & Noble in Talbot's. It's in Barracks. Got $328,000 in gross rev. It's got no competition really, at least that's how they bill it. Now you can get, balsamics and extra virgin olive oils in grocery stores.
Certainly can.
This is a specialty. We on a 2?
Yep.
Let's go on a 2. 328 asking for Oliva. Now, neither you nor I profess to be extra virgin olive oil and balsamic experts.
Certainly not.
I don't want to speak for you, but I'm not. Are you?
No.
What we are, I would say, is experts in branding and advertising. Become an expert certainly in the business transaction space and this market. I'm really scratching my head lately and saying, look, yesterday we talked about Tara Thai leaving Barracks. Mm-hmm. Hotcakes is still for sale in Barracks. We know Staples Barbershop is now a new iteration. Our clients are Greenberries in Barracks Road Shopping Center, and they've been our clients for what? 6-7 years.
Sure.
We know Barracks Road, the shopping center in totality has been a client. Start asking ourselves the question, is it directly tied to the rents?
People leaving? I'm sure it is. But you can't not conclude that the last 2 years has been a large part of that as well.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. You're saying this is the collateral damage of a pandemic. Yeah. This is the fallout of a nearly 2 year pandemic, and to be expected.
I see them as two. What's the word I'm looking for? They're both affecting each other, but they're both pretty major issues. If your rent is $20,000 a month, that's a hell of a nut to have to crack every month. And then add in the fact that for 2 years we've been, just insane with people in masks and people staying home and everyone afraid to go near anyone else. And of course it's going to be hard to make that, whatever your monthly is in a place like Barracks Road. And why not move somewhere else where it's cheaper?
Well, I mean, the thinking, devil's advocate, sake of a talk show, as we do, the thinking is you have the most foot traffic in the city for a shopping quarter is Barracks. And when you have, and I'll get out of your way so you can jump in, and you have high-end brands there, like luxury brands in Barracks. And the thinking is with the luxury brands brings luxury clientele, and there's trickle-over impact for locally owned businesses. But we see straight up the headwinds that these locally owned businesses are facing in Barracks Road. What I'm going to do is I'm going to queue up the directory of Barracks Road shops. I'm curious of your take on any of this as I find that directory. But I mean, you just lost Terra Thai, our friends at Terra Thai. We know Hotcakes, an institution over there, is closed, and that business is currently for sale, right? We know our friend Tiffany Smith at the Virginia shop is still, successful and living and performing strongly at Barracks, and we love Tiffany in the Virginia shop. She's been on this program
and apparently did better there than she did on the downtown mall.
On the downtown mall, where she was next to Zocalo.
I think Barracks is just I think it's a crapshoot. Some people are probably loving it there and do great business, but if you've been there during like Christmas, yeah, there's a ton of foot traffic. But then you go by a place and see like 3 people in the store, and just because you have high foot traffic doesn't mean that that they're stopping at all those places. And I think maybe for some of these places, it's better to find out who their real customers are by going somewhere where their customers have to actively go there, rather than just hoping that high foot traffic is going to translate into high purchases and dollars. And like Terra Thai, it's a great place.
Have you been?
Yeah. In
Great
fact,
place.
I think I was there not that long ago. But
Friends of the program.
But the thing is, I've rarely seen it busy. I've seen it with 3 or maybe 4 tables taken up, but that's not and maybe that was just the time that I was there. So it might just be more cost effective for people to go somewhere where it's cheaper, and especially for a restaurant. I mean, how many restaurants get just walk-in business? Oh, I was just shopping for new.
I would say fast casual does. Certainly much more so than a sit down. I mean, you're getting a lot of business if you're friends of the program.
But is Terra Thai
Panera
fast
Bread
casual?
gets a lot of walk-in.
Yeah, but yeah,
that's fast casual.
Yeah. As is Five Guys.
Ray Cadell, watching the program, he's highlighting Main Course Sandwich, the former Witch location down the road. He says that's a pretty good cheesesteak. If you guys want to jump in with conversation. So this is the second time Barracks Road's been the lead of the show. Yesterday we led with our experience for Ralph Sampson Tap House, a DC restaurant group utilizing the Ralph Sampson brand to localize a business in Charlottesville. We established, with the help of our friend Kelly Jackson, the owner of Panera Bread, she has a location in Barracks, I think 17 in totality. We established yesterday that Ralph Sampson's Tap House likely has the highest rent of any restaurant in the city of Charlottesville. As a result, their menu prices are not...
That was my take. That was the takeaway that I got. They're expensive.
I would say they're expensive. We also highlighted yesterday that Terra Thai has left, our friends. And today, after yesterday's...
Moving.
Finish your thought?
They're moving.
They're left Barracks. They're moving to the old Arches location. A very unique building on Emmett Street. Just a little bit down the road. And today we're highlighting on the program, J-Dubs, after yesterday's show, I get messaged about Oliva listing and choosing to put its business on the market. straight up given data points associated with that listing. $20,000 in inventory, $295,000 asking price, gross revenues of $328K, data points associated with the lease, data points associated with how the business can grow, data points associated with what the landlord is willing to do from a transition standpoint. They have furniture, fixtures, and equipment. In our business, that acronym is FFE, and FFE of roughly 10K.
Okay.
We told you last week Warby Parker's moving into Barracks. Has it gotten to the point, and maybe it's always been this case, and some have just been able to manage it, but has it gotten to the point where the rents have become so astronomically high and the opportunity or potential associated with the internet and social media retail is so appealing that the local mom and pop is getting priced out or cannot afford the top shopping district in the city? Now, to counter that statement,
my guess.
Monique Mosher and Steve Belcher at the Happy Cook are crushing it.
But they've reached out and done, we've talked about them, we've talked about cooking classes and other experiential retail opportunities that they've provided, and that may help them.
100%. Judah Wickower, there's the advertising and branding expertise. And yes, Jamie Turner, mayor of Gordonsville, now repping the PEP as a homeowner in Culpeper, says, is Nike gone as well? It is. Nike is closed. The Nike store is closed.
I never knew they were there.
There was. In fact, Small World Charlottesville, the family that rented the Villas at Southern Ridge condo, where VMV Brands launched 14 years ago. When Judah first started working for this firm, he and I were working out of this condo office. Your desk consisted of what?
I think it was file cabinets and doors.
Yeah, it was a door resting on two filing cabinets. The general manager of the Nike store, this is like 2 degrees apart here. The general manager of the Nike store that is now closed was my tenant for the past year at the Villas of Southern Ridge. When they closed the Nike store, he got relocated. Jamie said the best deals out of all Nike outlets he's ever seen was that particular location. Wild Bill McKenzie, Ralph Sampson's Tap House is not a slam dunk. I agree with that. Scott Aaronworth in Virginia Beach, I never go to Barracks Road to eat. Nicholas Urpí, brother of Alex Urpí, who's about to be on the set. It's interesting because it could just be that changes in location are just about making a higher margin to increase your quality of life rather than hoping that if you raise prices, you can survive. This is what we're going to do. I'm seeing an opportunity in the market, certainly with our reach. The business owners that are watching the program continue to send us your businesses, and if you want to put them on the market, I Love CVille will become the marketplace for trading businesses. If you'd like to sell your business, we'll jump in that game. Help you drive exposure for the business listing and help close those deals and find buyers for you. We will do that. We will utilize our I Love CVille Network, our Instagram, our branding expertise, photography, videography, marketing skill set, exposure skill set to help you find buyers. Yesterday after the show, I hear from Oliva that he'd like to sell. Gross revenues of $328,000, asking price of $295,000, inventory of 20 Gs, furniture, fixtures, and equipment of $10K also, and an opportunity for transition with the current owners and the new owners. John Blair Stanton, hello, welcome to the program. I see 6 cities and 2 states on today's show. Before we get off this topic, Federal Realty owns the shopping center, publicly traded company. It's very important that in a city like Charlottesville, the tenant roster is managed appropriately. Because if you become too much Wells Fargo, Warby Parker, ABC Store, U.S. Post Office, too much Smoothie King, Simply Mac, too much Orange Theory, Old Navy, McDonald's, Joseph A. Bank, too much GameStop, too much Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Bed Bath & Beyond, Barnes & Noble, Kroger, Teeter, and you start losing your local flavor, you will quickly become less of a destination. So prioritizing the Virginia shops and the Brazos and the Greenberry's coffees and prioritizing the Follies Home Furnishings and prioritizing the His Barbershops and prioritizing the Olivas, the hotcakes, both those looking to skedaddle. Hotcakes already has. Prioritizing the Rebecca's Natural Food, the Spring Street Boutique. This is paramount for the localization, the humanization, and the personalization of your shopping center brand. One of the key strategies that branding aficionados and branding experts do is 3 words. And Judah, are we on a 2-shot? What are those 3 words we think every time we do a branding and advertising project?
You got me.
We localize.
Oh, localize, personalize, and I forget the last one.
Humanize.
Yeah, there you go.
We localize, personalize, and humanize. Because when you localize, personalize, and humanize a brand, you tell the story of it. And when you localize, personalize, and humanize the founders in the inventory, the menu, the service, the product line, how the brand makes its money, you're building equity behind the brand. And one of the key market differentiators for someone in this community when competing against a big box brand is the localized, personalized, and humanized nature of the business. It's why Monique and Steve at The Happy Cook have done well. They beat Williams-Sonoma by localizing, personalizing, and humanizing The Happy Cook. Patty Zeller at Animal Connection has localized, personalized, and humanized her business. And for 20 plus years, a pet store founded out of her garage with deep freezers has been able to go 12 rounds, 20 rounds, toe-to-toe in the boxing ring with big box pet store brands. Barracks has got to be careful. If they lose that local, personal, and human flavor, they quickly will go the way of
The dodo bird?
the dodo bird.
Extinct.
They got to be careful. So we'll help them, folks in the business, to transact and to sell and to find some buyers for their respective companies. Happy to jump in that game. Next topic I want to cover, then Alex Urpí, moments away. 3 topics quickly. 10 Virginia basketball players, 10 have scored 10 points or more in the National Basketball Association this year. Trey Murphy, 32, season high. Malcolm Brogdon, 31, season high. DeAndre Hunter, 26, season high. Ty Jerome, 24, season high. Joe Harris, 24, season high. Justin Anderson, 18, his season high. Kyle Guy, 17, season high. Anthony Gill, 15, season high. Mamadi Diakite, 12, and Sam Hauser, 10. Braxton Key has 9 points as a season high for the Wizards. So that's 10 Wahoos active in the NBA with 10 points scored or more. Braxton Key, 9 points on the season for the Wizards. And Jay Huff is doing incredible things in the developmental league and the NBA G League. So he's on the very near cusp of getting a roster spot in the association. Bennett's bunch are doing big-time things in the association, something that he can leverage on the recruiting trail and path. One of the knocks for Virginia, and certainly Tony early in his career, was he didn't produce NBA talent. Well, folks, that's not the case anymore. And if you look at the recruiting class that's coming in next season, it's one of the best in the nation. Again, Tony proves why he is one of the best coaches at the university. It's getting close to time. You give him 5, 6, 7, 8 more years, you start saying Tony's name needs to be on the court at the John Paul Jones Arena. Just like Krzyzewski in Durham, look like Dean Smith in Chapel Hill, name on the court time is coming for Tony Bennett. 2 other topics before Alex Urpí. Dude, folks that own homes are getting wealthier. I can't cut to the chase more than that. This released today, the S&P Case-Shiller report, a 10-city composite index and a 20-city composite index. Basically, they take 10 and 20 cities, they create an index from them, and they showcase this data to show us how dramatically home prices are increasing or decreasing. Well, year over year, 2021 versus 2022, home prices rose nationally 19.2%. In December, it was 18.9%. So you had a 0.3 increase from December to January alone. The folks that are homeowners in our country are becoming wealthier and wealthier simply by sleeping on a pillow in their house. Simply by going to the think tank in the morning and the evening and reading the newspaper. 19.2% year over year, Judah Wickhauer. January versus January.
Yeah, it's insane.
You sleep in your bed, you open your refrigerator, and you let Liza out the back door, and your home jumped nearly 20%.
Yeah. I'm not complaining.
The only time you could potentially complain is come tax time.
Yep, fair enough.
That's startling. And then the last topic, Alex, if you want to head from the green room to the set. Yesterday, the University of Virginia went maskless in classrooms.
Well, everybody else is.
You're saying about time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. It's about time. About time. Maskless in classrooms for UVA for the first time since this pandemic has hit. I'm looking on screen on the 10-year and the 2-year yield curves inverted. Mm-hmm. 3-shot, if we can rock and roll. Judah Wickhauer is on screen. Alex Urpí, the Antonio Banderas of finance, on set right now. He is affable, approachable, likable, intelligent, well-spoken, booed up. Are you booed up?
Booed up?
Booed up? You got a girlfriend?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. I was about to be a matchmaker here. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a special lady. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Appreciate it. Good
love
to be
you.
back. I missed. I know there were a couple of weeks that I wasn't able to come on Tuesday. I've missed it.
You're a busy man.
Yep, some busy times. Had a couple of meetings. I know you had a meeting.
We did. My friend, we have a stampede of bulls on Wall Street. The Bears.
Today, I know.
The Bears are heading to their caves, hibernating maybe for this chilly winter, and the bulls have been running wild for 8 to 10 trading days.
S&P has left correction territory, so no longer at a -10 for the year.
I've learned to trust and count on everything you say and hang on to it closely. I noticed you just said for the time being.
For the time being. I mean, it's so hard to know. There's so much volatility in the market that it's hard to know what news will tip the market back into the correction territory or what news will propel it forward. Obviously, today they're looking at Russia-Ukraine and seeing Russia pulling back a little bit from around Kiev and the possibility of peace talks. Of course, that boosts the market's prospects. On the flip side, obviously, they're also looking and saying, hey, there's 5 million more jobs available than there are unemployed people. So there's still room for this economy to employ people and grow. So we're not really looking on the ground. Really, if you take away the inflation concern, you look on the ground and it's not as though you're seeing negative prospects economically speaking for the rest of the economy. Really, it's the inflation picture and the uncertainty that is driving a lot of the bearish sentiment.
I want to talk about the bond market. We know your padre, Xavier Urpí, is a bond man.
He is indeed.
We're going to talk bonds here, Xavier, and we love when you chime in. Before we get there, oil is dropping.
Mm-hmm.
And gas is one of the pain points we feel immediately and is tangible and can resonate and leave a sour taste in our mouth, just like groceries. We know gas dropping impacts eventually grocery costs and everything in the whole
pretty much
freaking
everything
world.
Else. Yep.
In the whole world. Talk to us about oil potentially stabilizing. We know in Asian markets, they got COVID lockdowns happening. Mm-hmm. And as their COVID lockdowns are happening, it's creating potentially more supply for the western side of the world.
Just as the demand is dropping.
Because demand's dropping there
In Asia.
on the eastern portion of the world.
Mm-hmm.
We also know Ukrainian-Russia tensions, easing could potentially create more supply with oil as well.
Absolutely.
How's that impacting things?
That's what is going to ultimately impact, I think, gas prices a little bit going forward. Because really, like everything else, it's a supply and demand equation. So what we've seen over the past year plus with the rapid rise of oil is increasing demand, right, and a supply that was simply not keeping pace, right? What we're seeing now is because of an Asia slowdown in demand, but by virtue of lockdown, essentially. So, it's not as though it's a positive circumstance, but in terms of its impact on oil, it drops the demand for oil from that part of the world, which is still very oil dependent. And then on the flip side, of course, anything that eases tensions, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be an actual change in output. We see this a lot every time there's a Middle Eastern war, right? You don't necessarily have to get the news that a refinery was bombed or that oil couldn't get from point A to point B. Once you hear the words war in Middle East, price of oil goes up because there's the expectation of a future increase in the price of oil, which pushes up prices today. If I think oil is going to be $120 tomorrow and I try to buy it from you today, what are you going to charge me, Jerry? You're going to charge me 120. You're going to be like, well, if you think it's going to be 120 tomorrow, I might as well charge you 120 today. So I think we were seeing a lot of that with Russia-Ukraine, and so the reverse holds true. Just even if it doesn't have an immediate impact in the quantity of oil being produced, the expectation that there will be more supply unless demand is enough to sort of push down prices the almost 3% that they're down today.
I was talking with on Real Talk this morning with Keith Smith and Johnny Ornalis, your friend, my friend, Judith's
Absolutely.
friend, was chiming in. J.O.'s
guy.
watching now. And we were talking with some of these inflation points, how the trepidation is that these price points will be the new points. Now, what we first want to see is the escalation of prices stop. That's the first thing we want to see. We don't want to see bacon go up, milk go up, gas continue to rise. The second thing we want to see is gas, milk, bacon, groceries. Once they stop increasing, we like to see them go back downward. I think we can see the prices stop increasing. We hope that's soon. We know that that's what Jay Powell's trying to do.
Yep.
I'm not so certain we will see those prices start to go down again.
I would agree with that. And to be honest, I'm not so certain that you want to.
Okay,
And
give me that take.
What I mean by that is having risen to the extent to which prices are high because there were simply not enough supply moving, you might be able to see some of those prices come down. To the extent to which prices are high because of oil spiking, you might see them come down a little. To the extent that prices were high because there was too much money in the system. The problem with that is that extracting money from the system, as the Federal Reserve is trying to do, usually slows down the economy. So you don't necessarily, for the most part, prices declining rapidly as an actual decline. And I'm not talking about a decrease in the inflation rate. I'm talking about an actual drop of prices. Usually is because there's less economic activity going on. So you don't necessarily want to see that unless, as I said, to the extent that the inflation we're seeing is because of the fact that there was simply not enough supply moving to keep up with demand. To the extent, that you'll see. In other words, if I simply have no basketballs to sell and everybody wants to buy basketballs, the moment I get a shipment of basketballs, price comes down, right? And that's not a bad thing. I'm selling more basketballs. To the extent that the price of basketballs went up because there are so many dollars in the system, extracting those dollars out of the system can cause its own issues, which I think has been the Federal Reserve's concern in some ways. I think part of their concern is their non-mandate / mandate, which is, the United States government has so much debt, we don't want to increase interest rates on that debt. But I think their other concern has been how much do we risk teetering this over the edge if we pull back too quickly, too fast.
So here's the question. Kevin Yancey's asking this question. Multiple folks. Bill McKenzie. Jennifer Kraling. Do we expect gas prices to drop as the supply increases? Or is $4 a gallon the new norm for us?
Oh no, I would expect, if indeed the price of oil comes down, you should expect and see gas prices coming down. There's no indication, again, it's the supply and demand that determines that price. There's no indication that you could have the price of oil drop and suddenly gas prices at the pump stay where they are. That's not likely to happen. Gas tends to move up and down. It's the price level of the economy as a whole, that headline inflation number, that I would be, and then maybe Xavier would disagree, I would be stunned if I see that number turn negative.
Okay, so the follow-up question, and she just asked it again. If he thinks gas prices will drop, then why won't our grocery bills?
Well, again, they will a little to the extent that they're up because of gas prices, or to the extent that they're up because groceries couldn't get from point A to point B. To the whatever percentage of that increase in grocery prices is the result of too much money in the system, which no one knows. No economist can tell you what percent of inflation is a result of that, because there's just so many factors. What I'm saying is whatever portion of that increase in prices is the result of too much money in the system may not come down unless a lot of money is pulled out of the system.
Alex Urpí, our guest guy, CEO of Emergent Financial Services, co-host and co-star of Today y Mañana, Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille Network. The bond market is flashing a warning sign of recession. You're the experts here. I'm a guy who reads a lot. I learn from experts like you and Xavier. Okay? Here's what I know, and then I get out of your way. An inverted yield curve in the bond market is a distortion that often happens before a recession.
It's usually a leading indicator.
It's a leading indicator. And it seems to be tapping us on the shoulder and saying, folks, this could be coming down the pipe. So the little I know, you're the expert, this happens when short-term bond yields exceed those of longer-term bonds.
And the reason for that typically, so of course the yield curve is imagine if you plot the length of the bonds versus their yield. You don't want to see downward sloping typically. Because what typically that means, right, is that people in the bond market is seeing more positivity in the short term than in the long term. What that means is, in other words, they're negative. The more negative you become about the long-term prospects, the more long-term yields drop. And so you don't want to see that in the long term, right? Because you don't want to see that inverted nature, because it means I'm more top positive about the next 3 months than I am about the next 10 years. That's bad. That's usually a negative sign. The tricky thing we're in now, and the problem with many leading indicators, including the yield curve, is that they're leading indicators because they often happen before a recession, but can happen at other times when there's not a recession, right? So the challenge we're having is the Federal Reserve just...
So we hope it's that.
We're hoping it's that, but the challenge we're having now is that the Federal Reserve literally just jacked up the rate on the short end. Because remember, what the Federal Reserve changed was the short-term rate. The Federal Reserve has a very limited impact on long-term bond yields. The Federal Reserve has a much more powerful impact when they raise that interest rate by 0.25%. They have much more of an impact on the short end. So the challenge is you look at the yield curve and you say, well, is it inverted because there's suddenly an increase in negativity in the long-term end of the curve? Is it inverted because the Federal Reserve raised short-term interest rates and long-term interest rates just didn't respond because there's really no reason for them to respond? I mean, the challenge you're having, right, is that what pushes rates down, right, is a lot of people buying bonds. So to the extent that the United States is still the most attractive place to buy bonds in the entire world, it's tough to make a judgment on people buying a lot of U.S. bonds, major investors buying U.S. bonds, which pushes down the rate in the long end. But as you sit there and say, where else are they going to buy bonds? I mean, you're not going to buy 10-year bonds in Germany that are yielding negative rates.
Right.
When you can buy, even at super low rates in the U.S., still positive. Right? So you have all this, there's still a lot of demand for U.S. bonds. So the problem is we're looking at this and saying, is this the bond market telling us something? Or is this the bond market simply saying, I'm not paying more in terms of yield, right? I'm not paying more for 10-year bonds, but the Federal Reserve pushed up the rate of 3-month bonds. So 3-month bills, I should say. So these are always the challenging scenarios, because you sit there and say, X happens every time before a recession, but X can also happen even if there's not a recession.
So I got a ton of questions. I love Tuesdays with Alex Urpí. Kevin, we'll get to your King of Greenwood. We'll get to your comments here. Jennifer, let us know where you're watching, because if you continue to participate like this, you're going to get a moniker as well. Queen of Earlysville, Vanessa Parkhill is watching the program as we speak. Mayor of Gordonsville, Jamie Turner. King of Virginia Beach, Scott Aaronworth. King of Waynesboro on the program. Jack Jewett's queen, Carol Thorpe, watching the program. I love the regulars on the show. Christy Fitzgerald, hello and welcome to the broadcast. Which data point concerns you the most? I would imagine that's going to be CPI, but I'm still going to ask. Mm-hmm. The last CPI number that just came out was 7.9%. And that was not indicative of the increase in gas.
Mm-hmm. That was pre-spike in gas prices.
Pre-spike in gas. That worries me, but you're the pro. Which data point, we're also positive guys. Mm-hmm. Which data point makes you feel positive or bullish? First, the one that makes you potentially bearish data point. Is it CPI?
Mm-hmm. It pretty much, I mean, when you look at the economy, that seems to me to be the most negative indicator right now, just because it has the biggest impact on people's ability to actually live their lives. And
Consumer price index.
Consumer price index. And even beyond that, I would go further when you consumer price index plus gas and plus energy, essentially. Because remember, consumer price index takes out energy because it's volatile, right? I look at this and say, well, you can take out energy in theory, but you and I and everyone watching this program today is paying gas prices. So if gas is up more than CPI, the fact that you took it out of CPI doesn't mean that it's not there. So I would say CPI plus food and energy prices, which are removed from CPI but are paid by you and me.
Which one makes you feel positive?
Positive, as weird as it sounds, that unemployment versus job openings number. Because you sit there and say, if the economy was experiencing a slowdown, I would expect employers to be pulling jobs off the market. The fact that there are still more job openings than people unemployed is always and everywhere a good sign, right? Because the number, let's face it, the number one damage caused in recession is a high unemployment rate. In other words, people who are looking for work but cannot find it. What we have now is the complete opposite. It is people, for whatever reason, choosing not to work, but those jobs are there. My suspicion is as concerns mount and little scares like this happen, and as the remainder of whatever COVID funding is out there dries up, people will begin to take some of those jobs that are out there. But the important thing is that the jobs are out there. We're not seeing employers saying, I am making so much less money that I can no longer make ends meet and I need to take this position away.
When does the employer, and guys, we're going to get to these comments here. Kevin, King of Greenwood, we're going to get to yours next. When does the employer start saying, because we've had this conversation for a while, jobs, we have jobs, we don't have people to fill. When does the employer do one of two, three things? The job goes away. Mm-hmm. You do more with less. I have a feeling that's already happening right now. Mm-hmm. Second thing, it goes the way of automation. You're going to a McDonald's, you're not ordering from a person, you're ordering from a kiosk, and then you're picking up the food when it's dropped off by the person, but they're essentially taking away a cashier's position. Mm-hmm. The employer starts utilizing digital. Thomas Leroy, we'll get to your comments. The employer starts using digital methodologies to fill the vacancies of human capital. Mm-hmm. When does that jobs number become less concerning with the ubiquitous and innovative nature of digital?
That's a good question. The challenge is digital poses both a solution and its own problem.
Oh, talk to us why.
Okay, because the solution is the economy is always better off in the long term when employers can do exactly what you just said, which is do more with less. Because it makes in other words, if I get a new technology that enables my 5 employees to become even more productive, right, that's good for my business, and that gets passed on to the consumer in terms of the fact that I don't need to raise prices on them, right? I can, in fact, sometimes maybe even I can lower prices as I'm now doing more with less, or I can produce more volume and sell more and provide more to people without increasing prices, right? So in the long-term trajectory of the economy, technological advancements that enable you to do more with less, which is capital, that's what capital is, right? We always talk about labor and capital. Capital is that which makes labor more productive. To sometimes I think people think of capital and we think it's like this scary thing or this enemy of labor, and it's not really. Capital makes labor more productive, right? On the flip side, however, we're reaching a point in technology that in the past you would sit there and say, well, even though these 5 jobs will be lost to capital, these other 5 jobs which did not exist in the past now exist because the economy has reached a new level. And you can just think of the 20th century, right? You switch from textiles. Remember, everything in the 19th century and basically the 19th century to make clothes, right? You would employ like 10 people. Basically, you would send out the goods to this house, that house, this house, and they would sew it up.
That was the whole X Park. X was textiles.
X was textiles.
Yeah. Belmont was people that worked at X Park.
Exactly.
At X.
So you replace that with assembly lines. All those people lose their jobs. But what happens? You attain a new a new economy in the 20th century in which there were jobs which didn't exist in the 19th century.
People servicing assembly lines.
People servicing assembly lines, people servicing assembly lines. You think about the computers, well, now you have tech people. You would sit there and say a computer is going to wipe out 10 people that used to crunch numbers on slide rulers.
Well, now you need,
but now you need
NVIDIA,
techies, coding,
AMD.
You need all these things that create the computers. So typically that's what happens. The challenge, of course, is in those times of rapid change, are there people who get left behind because they don't yet have the skills for the new jobs that are created, but their job that they had before has been erased by technology. And it's so hard, like that's a problem, but it's one of those problems that I do believe that we can put our heads together and solve and that will be resolved. But that doesn't mean, I don't like to dismiss the human cost that happens, because there are going to be families that are negatively impacted because the job you had is gone and you don't yet have the skills for whatever job didn't exist 10 years ago but now is going to exist that you would be expected to fill. Because I know a lot of times with globalization we just chalk that up as like, well, everything's cheaper, you could get this new tech job, and I'm like, but if you had the well-paying job building a car, it's not as though you can just, and you're 50 and you get laid off, it's not as though you can just magically learn 20 years worth of coding and go become a tech worker in Silicon Valley. It doesn't really work that way. So I don't like to dismiss the human concerns, but that's the negative, but I don't want it to override the fact that there are positives, that when people are more productive, right, that's good for labor, and it's good for particularly I think for the small businesses that usually have trouble reaching that sort of economies of scale, economies of scale is the reason why Costco can sell things for way less than your average mom and pop grocery store. Because Costco is working with billions upon billions of goods.
It's a cost cooperative.
So everything, exactly. So every one widget is cheaper because there's so many widgets that Costco is dealing with. That's a lot harder for mom and pop. So anything that technology can do to make them more productive is a good thing, but I won't pretend that it doesn't come with its own costs that we kind of have to work through and figure out.
A++ take from Alex Urpí right there. Questions coming in fast and furious.
Go for it.
So why don't we go, like you and I are both sports fans.
Lightning round?
Yeah. Let's
Like
go lightning round.
PMI, yep.
Yeah, like PTI.
PTI.
Kevin Higgins, is a potential recession limited to the U.S. or is there a fear this may be worldwide?
Like they always say, if the U.S. sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. So a U.S. recession impacts the world, to be sure.
Thomas Leroy. Love Thomas Leroy, F&B director. Thomas Leroy knows firsthand. Thomas Leroy, you are A+ people. I'd give you a chest bump and a fist bump if I saw you right now. As an F&B director, he literally knows firsthand of cost of goods increases and how this impacts the menus he puts out. Do you see the current upgrade in crypto going to continue with the Ukrainian conflict?
So I think crypto is one of those things that I think is going to be around for a long while in terms of being used in certain parts of the world. The real question is whether it has a long-term future as major currencies that people are exchanging with. I still have my doubts that the governments of the world will permit that to happen. Just look at India, China. But I think for the foreseeable future, it's going to be a medium of exchange on sort of the peripherals.
It's got some tailwinds.
Mm-hmm. It has some tailwinds. My concern is at
Bitcoin's
what point...
in fuego right now.
Mm-hmm. It is, and I think they will be for a while. Just over the very, very long term, maybe I'm a cynic, I see it reaching a critical mass where the governments of the world say, no mas, that we will not permit you. The one thing crypto can't do right now is pay taxes. You can't pay the IRS in crypto. And if that never happens and the IRS and the US government wants to make their own digital currency, they're not going to want it to be something out of their hands, which is what crypto is right now.
Neil Williamson, hello. We love the king of content, Neil Williamson, watching the program. Stephen Long says, so what Alex is saying is Main Street cannot innovate with its technology as fast as big box or Wall Street, and that's why this innovation is not necessarily good for our families, friends, and neighbors.
I'd phrase it a little differently. What I'm saying is that technology can be very good for Main Street because it sort of equalizes. Wall Street big box has a built-in advantage without technological advancements because of the fact that they're dealing with bigger quantities. technological advancement, I think, can actually help Main Street to be more competitive versus bid box, because it enables Main Street to be more productive without having to operate on a massive scale like bid box. Where it can hurt is in the labor market for people who get caught in between, that their previous job ceases to exist and the new job for them is something they don't have the skills for. So that's how I would phrase it. I don't think it's bad. I don't think the technology itself is bad for Main Street. I think the technology itself can be good because it adds to their productivity without them needing to be as big as the bid box stores.
Jason Howard, we'll get to your comments here in a matter of moments. Judah Wickara, another DM just came in about a business owner, this one in Albemarle County, looking to sell his business.
Wow.
Another one, as we continue to highlight
this is the place to go for that.
Another one just came in.
This is where my news comes in around the businesses.
Jason Howard for Alex and Jerry went to Bodo's Bagels for breakfast this morning. They had a sign explaining that the price of romaine lettuce went up 100% last week alone, and they would need to adjust their prices back down when and if it normalizes. The clerk at the register said the price of a case went from $30 to $60.
Wow. Ouch.
Romaine lettuce.
Which I figure there's got to be a combination of general inflation and gas. It's the transportation that the lettuce here.
Yeah.
Because lettuce I'm not aware there's a shortage of lettuce, although agriculture was a little impacted, but it's the truck. It's the truck that's the lettuce from California to Virginia.
$60, Alex. How does
That's crazy.
Is that not?
It's crazy.
How about the price of wings, which we highlighted yesterday at Ralph's? What was it? Was it 10 wings for 20? Was it 16 wings for 23? What did we talk about yesterday?
16 wings for $23, so over $1 a wing.
Yeah, let me confirm that exact price as I'm calling up the menu here. But there's a significant shortage. I'm literally looking at the menu as we speak. The wings at Ralph's are 10 wings for $23.
Wow.
10.
$2.30.
For 23. 5 for 13. You get a little bit of you get a $3 price break when you go to the 10 wings. 10 for 23. What is your thoughts on that?
That's $2 per chicken.
I mean, it just shows that obviously we have a wing shortage. We have a fuel
wing
issue.
shortage, fuel.
Absolutely high rents.
I think that's a major.
What do you make of the craziness that's going around Barracks?
It's kind of sad. It seems to me, and I feel like this trend's been happening at Barracks for a while. I remember I still miss Aromas that used to be.
Aromas was amazing.
Aromas was amazing.
Yeah.
It's just, you see with a couple of exceptions, you see the big high-end, like nationwide retailers at Barracks. And my suspicion is because it's the nationwide retailers that the only ones that can afford the rent there. I don't know what the rent is, but that's what it screams to me.
No, I think you're right. You know, what was the democratization? Why don't we go to the 3-shot, J-Dubs? We'll go to the equilateral triangle of content here. What was the democratization of music? Do you guys remember?
Democratization of music? The cassette player?
Democratization of music. Do you remember the democratization of music, Judah?
I don't know.
Democratization of music was the internet. And the indie artist, the independent artist, the indie artist could produce and could air music on the internet in the same way that a big label musician could do. And the democratization of music may eventually be what needs to happen for the mom and pop retailer. The mom and pop retailer that builds a brand digitally and utilizes the democratic nature of the World Wide Web to sell his or her products when compared to the big box brand. Now, the big box brand is still going to have a deeper cash position, it's still going to have more labor, and it's still going to be able to create a more slicker, sophisticated infrastructure. But it's still the concept of selling a product online and removing the extremely high line item that is associated with the rents. Maybe we head that way. Something on the brain right now?
That's the technology at work there, right? The mom and pop shop, because remember, relative to the volume of a big box store, their fixed cost, which is the rent of their locations, is very small. Because they're doing so much. When you're doing billions of transactions, the fact that you're paying a certain amount for your stores is a smaller percentage of your total business. For the mom and pop shop, that store is a very large percentage of their total costs. But now you replace the physical storefront with the digital storefront, which is now a much smaller piece of your upfront costs, right? And suddenly your variable prices, in other words, your price versus the bid guy, it's not such a big difference anymore.
There you
You're
go.
more competitive.
There you go. That's you. Anything you want to add to that? I see the wheels turning. Judah?
No.
I think he said it brilliantly.
Yep.
Per usual. My friend, today, mañana on Thursday.
Today, manana, 3 great businesses we're going to have on. We're going to have first Allison from Siller Pollinator. They help beekeeping.
Ooh.
They work with beekeepers, pollinators here, sort of your consulting assistant to beekeeping. Which
I like when
which is
Xavier
really
said
neat.
last week, does that mean bees in studios?
Hopefully, for me, I'm like, okay.
Oh, was that you
I'll
who
pass.
said that?
He said it.
Okay.
He offered it, and I said no.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think so.
In a lot of ways, the dynamic is very funny because Xavier has a little bit of a mischievous streak, and you reel him in a little bit.
Xavier's the instigator.
Yeah, I know. He likes to poke. I like that
He's
about
an
him.
instigator. So but Bugs and I are not the best of friends, I have to say. We're also going to have Jane Hamill and David Steves from Pro Granada Brewery, as well as the owners of Arepas on Wheels, which is a new Latino. Because they've been, I think, for several months. We've been trying to get them on. They're like several months in our community, but they go around food truck, going around producing arepas. But they've been at breweries, wineries. You can see them all over the place. So we're really excited to get them on the show, Arepas on Wheels.
You have a great show lined up.
Yes, it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
How's Emergent? How's Emergent Financial Services?
Oh, things are going well. People wanting financial plans. People want to come talk just investment. People having some questions on, okay, is this a good time to invest? Is this not a good time to invest? So just the education process of how the market works and how to be invested for the long term never ends.
Thomas Leroy, the F&B Director Extraordinaire, says wings cost us $1 a piece unless you have a national contract.
Wow.
$1 a piece unless you have a national contract.
Well, and then you want to know why it's $2.30 per wing.
Now you're thinking now you see that the 5 for 13 or 10 for 23.
It's not crazy.
It's not crazy.
It's not crazy. Just remember, they need to cover.
They have to make a profit.
The restaurant needs to cover. Remember, the restaurant needs to cover the fixed costs.
Yeah.
Which is the rent through the food.
Exactly.
So I mean, the wing
And their labor.
and their labor that
Yeah.
needs to come out of that food price. So it's probably very quickly you go from $1 to $2.30 a wing.
I mean, it's bananas. It's absolutely bananas. All right. Judah Wickhauer is our director. Alex Urpí is our fantastic Tuesday superstar standout. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is the I Love CVille Show on a Tuesday afternoon. We are back tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. on the network that gives you more local programming than any in the region, the I Love CVille Network. Hasta luego, everyone. Alex, you were...
Oh, thank you. Now, this was a lot of fun.